When you fly in a virus, one of the major changes we have is to disinfect all the controls in the aircraft, making sure everything's clean, ready to fly. Putting in extra precautions. Checking maintenance and flight logs. And clearing the area to start the engine.
Clear!
Now it's time to taxi the runway. And time for takeoff. Checking for traffic. Climbing up to 1,000 feet. And off in the distance there to the left of the text is Mount Diablo. That's 4,000 feet in elevation. Turning crosswind. Leveling off at 1,000 feet, checking for traffic. Now turning downwind. Running the before landing checklist. Starting the descent, putting 10 degrees of flaps down. Turning base now, putting another 10 degrees of flaps down. Now turning final, lowering the airspeed. Stabilizing the approach. And rounding out as I pass the threshold. Reducing power and flaring. Skip ahead to taxiing back to the runway. Running some checklists. Checking for traffic. Turning the lights on. And time for another takeoff. Being in full power. Checking the engine instruments that they're all good. Maintaining best rate of climb airspeed. Checking for traffic again. And turning crosswind. Still climbing up, and off in the distance there's the Diablo Range Mountains. It runs through Central California. Now I'm leveling off at 1,000 feet, reducing the throttle and turning downwind. Running the before landing checklist again. Making sure I'm aligned parallel to the runway. Turning on the carpet, lowering 10 degrees of flaps. Checking my instruments that they're all good before landing. Starting the descent. Now turning base. Reducing power more, lowering 20 degrees of flaps, and now turning final. Checking for traffic, lowering the last degrees of flaps, and maintaining 65 knots as I descend down towards the runway. Focusing on an aiming point. Now leveling off, letting the plane slow down, and flaring by pitching up. And touchdown. Putting the flaps up and putting the carb in because I had enough runway to do a touch and go. So putting full power and taking off again. maintaining my best rate of climb. Checking for traffic like always. Climbing up to 1,000 feet. Now turning crosswind. Checking for more traffic. Now turning downwind, leveling off at 1,000. Checking my instruments that they're good. Oh, and off in the distance there, those two rivers. That's the California Aqueduct that runs from NorCal down to SoCal and provides water down there because there's a very hot climate in SoCal. Checking everything again, lowering flaps, lowering the airspeed, and starting my descent. Turning base. Checking for traffic. Reducing more airspeed and putting more degrees of flaps. Now turning final. Reducing my last degrees of flaps. Maintaining 65 knots, stabilized descent, and approaching the runway, and this is where I had the really bad landing. The wheels kept bouncing around, you'll see it, all the vibrations on the camera. One bounce, and there's a second bounce. So that was like the worst landing I had of the day. But it's always good to practice to improve. So skip ahead to this other takeoff. Lining up with the runway, full power. Checking the instruments again. And lift off. Keeping the throttle full open. Checking for traffic. Very important. Not turning crosswind. Leveling off at 1,000 feet. And turning downwind. And here's where I forgot to turn on the carb heat before landing. I'm always supposed to do that, even with my checklist. I just forgot this one time. Very bad mistake. Now I'm descending here on the downwind leg. Checking for traffic before I turn base. Lowering my airspeed even more, putting more degrees of flaps, now turning final. Maintaining 65 again, putting my last notch of flaps down. Helps us slow the airplane down. And slowly descending to the ground with a stabilized approach as I cross over this road here. I approach a threshold. Now reducing power even more, leveling off, and pitching back a bit more to flare. And here I tried making it off this first taxiway, but then I realized I was too fast to make it off, so I had to go on to the next taxiway. Oh well. Here I'm trying to really hurry it up because there's another plane behind me on final. I made it off and there I am taxiing back to parking. Going down the row of parking slots and pulling into parking slot number 1. And now running the securing checklist, cutting the fuel mixture off to the propeller system, and double checking that those lights are off. Pushing back the aircraft with my own power. This thing's like 10 times heavier than I am. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.